Make a Splash is an annual event that started out as a water festival celebrating our water resources. And we've incorporated into that our history as well, Delaware's history. So we teach the students about Delaware's water resources, hitting on their land and water unit in the 4th grade, and also Delaware state history. We try to connect that by explaining to them the uses of the river, using the St. Jones River as a case study, and helping them understand how the St. Jones River was used back in the 17th and 18th centuries, how it's being used today, and how we'll impact it in the future. So at the stormwater pond, they were learning about actual stormwater runoff, what that is. Stormwater runoff being after a rain, the water has to go somewhere. A lot of it gets absorbed into the ground, but in those areas where it can't, or it's super saturated, or there's impervious surface areas where water just can't be absorbed, it has to go somewhere. And so that water is going into, on this property, into our stormwater pond before it gets released out into a natural waterway. So they're learning a lot about stormwater runoff, where it goes, where it comes from, what impacts stormwater, how it can lead to flooding, and how we can actually attenuate flooding with natural wetlands and also created stormwater ponds.
Well, now let's go back 200 years. There are no fire hydrants. Did anybody ever see movies where they get a bucket brigade? Yes. Well, that's what we're going to do today.
The long haul is the game with the bucket brigade, and it teaches them a little bit of where our water comes from and how hard it is to get, especially back in the historical times when water just didn't come readily out of our kitchen sink, and to make that connection. But it also helps us with water conservation. The bucket brigade was showing that as water gets passed from one person to another, that they're trying to conserve as much water as they can to actually put out the so-called fire at the end. And so if they lose water in the passing of the water, then it's going to take more passing of the water in order to put out the fire. So they're actually learning water conservation concepts as well. And we talk about water conservation, what they can do at home to help conserve water, especially given the fact that there's only 1% fresh water available for us to use.
This was my house that was on fire.
But this one said.
And this was Miss Lynn's house that was on fire. So let's see whose house got saved. Read it off to me, young man.
17. 18.
18 we like. Oh, 16 and a half. Thank you.
We have about 120 people helping us out that day. They are volunteers from various organizations, agencies. They just come from all over the place, for-profit businesses, and they come to donate their time and help to educate our students about Delaware's water resources and history, and we're greatly appreciative of that. We have a partnership with the John Dickinson Plantation, which is part of the Division of Historical and Cultural Affairs.
You're trying to preserve your meat, or you're trying to make it last longer, okay? So that's why they did this back then. That's why we still do it today, to show you this. We're forgetting about. We're at the back of the house because the house faces the St. Jones River. What would they have gotten out of this river to smoke in here? Okay, might have had some ducks. What else? Fish. Okay, here's something we tend to forget about. Today we think this is kind of gross. Back then, that's no big deal. They used to love eels out of the St. Jones River, okay? Something else, out of the river or out in the bay, they would have oysters. They would smoke oysters, and I've got some oysters that were smoked here in the smokehouse. Okay. And I'm going to start with you guys over here, and like I said, I'll give everybody a chance. They would sprinkle things on it like bran or salt or stuff like that to give it flavoring. So you guys down on the end do this, and I'll bring out stuff and place it around the table, so everybody should get a chance to do this, okay?
So that they're learning the land and water unit in their classroom as well as Delaware State History unit. And now we're trying to put an experience behind the classroom work. We just really hope that this supplements their education and gives a real-world hands-on type experience to their classroom.
And we are very unique in Delaware. We are one of the only spots in the whole United States it had a colony from the country of Sweden.
We plan this event over the course of an entire year. So the planning team meets off and on over a year. And it's starting to get quite the well-oiled machine, shall we say. And we've been working as a committee for quite some time. But it does take about a year to plan, coordinating with schools and volunteers and getting the resources that we need and the presenters that we need. It takes quite a bit of planning.
Are you ready? 1, 2, 3.
Absolutely. Fun is always the key.